So I'll do the intro, then I'll talk a little bit about Young Justice coming back after fucking 3 months, because it's been 3 months. Welcome back to another episode of, I guess it's not an episode of the Cool Comic Show technically. This is welcome back to the Cool Comic Show YouTube channel, where we're going to talk about Young Justice. Personally, one of my favorite shows that is currently ongoing. I am joined by, as always, Galactic Mr. E, aka Mr. E, aka E.
Oh my god.
So Young Justice is back after 3 months. When they went on break in December, I thought originally like, oh, they're going to do their Christmas break, which a lot of shows, or a holiday break, a lot of shows do around this time, and they'll come back like end of January, early February. They were like, no, the fucking last day of March, we're going to be back. But they did come back with 3 episodes, which was cool. So this is Calderon's arc. There are 3 episodes. I'm going to pull the name of the episodes up. Episode 1 is Nautical Twilight. The next one is Ebb Tide. And the last one is Emergency Dive. I will say when these episodes came out, I went back and looked at the names of all of season 4 episodes to see if there was a message in there, like season 3. I think season 3's was, if you took the first letter of each episode, it said, prepare the anti-life equation. For this season, the secret message is nothing. There's nothing there. So, but yes, Young Justice is back after a 3-month break. I was very surprised it was that long of a break. I don't know on the back end, the business side of it, what was happening. I know that season 5 hasn't been approved or confirmed or nothing like that. So I think they're still waiting to see if people are still interested in Young Justice. But a lot happened. This is, like I said, Calder's arc. I guess we could just jump into it. So with it being Calder's arc, it starts off with Calder and Dick. By the way, shout out to Dick's first lines in this season. It goes to them kind of essentially putting the memorial up for Superboy, which we'll talk about Superboy in a second. Which was an interesting shot because it's Calder, it's Dick, it's Wall, and like them together, and then it's the memorials of Wally and Superboy. And like I saw, it reminded me of like the first episode where it's like those 4 and they first started the group. So it's kind of crazy, but.
Well, that's actually, if I'm remembering correctly, that scene actually originally takes place during Artemis's arc.
Yeah.
It's like it was one of the post-credits scene.
Yeah, yeah. It was like a brief thing. So there's a lot of death happening, but we know that Superboy isn't dead, technically. And we get the first time Calder says this, because he says this multiple times during these 3 episodes. Dick is like, hey, are you okay? And Calder goes, because Dick was like, hey, like when Tula died, you didn't grieve. With obviously Superboy right now, you're not really grieving. You are the leader of the Justice League. Like there's a lot happening in Calder's life. And Calder says,
no, I will be fine. I have to be. Thank you for your concern. But I have a conference tomorrow in Poseidonus, which I must prepare for.
And it's the first hint we get of like Calder having like a breakdown kind of in this whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like this is definitely going to, definitely going to be an emotional end, if not to this arc, than the overarching story. I feel like, we can kind of guess what's about to happen.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily going to be bad news that's going to break him, but there's definitely something devastating coming. Because that, like you said, that is stated multiple times throughout the series. So I don't think it's definitely not something to ignore.
Yeah.
First it was Nightwing, then it was his boyfriend, and then it was his parents.
Yeah.
So, for that to be restated multiple times, something is definitely going to happen. And his fate is kind of unknown currently at the end of these 3 episodes. So, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, that was going to be my next point of like, Calder's close to a breakdown or a breaking point, and like part of these episodes, there's a conversation he has with his parents, like you were saying, and his parents are like, also shout out to his dad being from San Diego, but his parents were like, even ever since you were a kid, and there's a flashback to him as a child and stuff, where he's always kind of taken on that, like, I guess the rock of the family. You know, he's
Mhm.
always taken it
The head
upon
of
himself,
household.
to carry the burden of the family in a way. And even when he first joined the team, back when they first started, like when Dick wasn't ready to take over the team, Calder was the leader, and
Mhm.
especially during all the mole stuff and like when the team was falling apart, like Calder was the one that held them together. So
True.
Calder's been one of my favorite characters from the show from the beginning.
Same.
He carries a lot with him, and I
Mhm.
think last season with him becoming leader of the Justice League, it just put him more over the top for me. So
Yeah.
I'm very, very interested to see where this goes. I hope, and even especially, God, I'm just thinking about everything that happened to Calder, like him with his dad, and like
Mhm.
him going undercover, and him getting brain blasted by Megan.
Yeah.
He's been through
He's
a
he's been
lot.
through a lot. He's been through a lot, and I think he's finally getting the arc that he deserves,
Yeah.
kind of shedding light on,
Hmm.
how he's handling all of this. And, it's this kind of our first glimpse into seeing that he's not really handling it.
Yeah.
He's kind
Because
of
he's
just
always been like, oh, Calder's
he's
fine, but now it's like, yeah.
he's just going to the next battle, but he
Hmm.
never takes a moment for himself. So we're kind of, I think we're going to see the culmination of that at the end of this arc, which we know for sure at least has one more episode. It may
Is there
have
one more?
two. Yeah, because I think all the arcs have been at least four
Four. Yeah.
episodes. I think Zatanna's was the only one that was five
Yeah.
so
5.
far. So we definitely have at least one more episode, if not two, for the conclusion of this arc. And I feel
Hmm.
like we're about to see a lot kind of take place, and I'm really excited for it.
Hmm.
After these first three episodes. And this was the first time we saw a lot of the Atlantean characters come together,
Yeah.
which I thought was super cool, kind of seeing them all in the same room.
Hmm.
I don't know that has been done on any scale in any other DC property outside of
Yeah,
the
that
comic
was
books.
actually my next point of like, while
Mhm,
Calder's going through all this, it's all backgrounded by Atlantis going through
mhm,
like their annual conference, and the old Aquaman, Arthur Curry. I think
mhm.
a very, very interesting aspect of this arc is, I don't know if you caught it. I haven't seen people talking about it too much, but with all this happening of this conference going on, Calder going through this kind of thing, there's also prophecy happening, which we'll get into detail about. Throughout these 3 episodes, you can kind of see that Arthur is feeling like he's not really contributing anymore. Like
Yeah.
there's even a conversation he has with Mira, where they're like in the he's like, what can I do? And she's like, what you always do. And he's like, okay, I just be in the background. Like that's kind of happening too, where Arthur doesn't really know what he should
Mhm.
be doing anymore as king,
Yeah.
especially with this prophecy, which I guess we could jump into it, where this prophecy talks about,
Do seek Atlantis' savior when the labors three are done, and then we crown our king, the one, the true.
and whoever comes out on top of those 3 will be the true ruler of Atlantis. And I didn't realize this while watching it, but when you get to this point of the episode, there's like that big red plume
Mhm.
or red tornado happening in the ocean, and this is where it comes from. The first half of the season, where Child, the Lord of Chaos, comes, and she kind of like is blowing up the world. And I
Mhm.
realized it when you get that very small glimpse of Zatanna and Fate like coming in,
Yeah.
and then they leave.
Mhm.
So that's happening, and then like Mara's trying to stop it, and then Ocean Master, which we haven't even talked about yet, who I didn't realize this till after I watched the episode. I was like, oh yeah, Lady Shiva cut his head off. Like he's supposed to be
Yeah.
dead.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Mara's trying to stop it. Ocean Master is trying to stop it, and then this mysterious third person who has already saved them once stops it. Who ended up being revealed as Arian, who
Mhm.
is the founder of Atlantis. So that's
Yeah.
there's a lot happening in Atlantis.
Yeah, I really like that this arc is starting to tie in everything. I
Yeah.
really, because I think that was
That was
one
what
of
we
my
talked
biggest
about.
gripes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my biggest gripes coming from the first half of the season, was that while these were all good stories, there was no overlap. So I'm really happy that there's
They're like,
overlap
hey,
now.
there's other characters.
Because as soon as like the first the first time the tornado,
it's like a red mist they
fire,
call it or something, right? Yeah.
it was that like fire
Yeah.
thing that Child was doing all across the world during Zatanna's arc. So at the end, at the climax of Zatanna's arc, for those who don't remember, there were a lot of magic characters that came out of the woodworks to try to stop this god of chaos from basically doing the same thing, putting these fire plumes across the world, causing just mass destruction, just because they're a god of chaos.
Yeah.
So we kind of so this series, like I said earlier, the conversation between Nightwing and Calder takes place during I believe it was the second arc.
Second or third.
Yeah,
Like
during the
post-credits.
second, during not Amethyst. Shout out Amethyst. During Artemis's arc.
Yeah.
She was it was like a post-credit scene. So
Yeah.
but you know that talk happened, and then we come to this arc and we get like the full gist of the talk, and then like later in the next episode we see parts of Zatanna's arc as well, and of course one of the side stories is still Beast Boy, who has been dealing with this.
Yeah, that's my last point on that I have here, which we'll get to. That's that's a whole conversation.
Yeah, he's been dealing with this thing the entire season.
Yeah.
So it's good to see all of these things kind of start to weave together. And I'm really excited to see more of like you said, King Orin or Arthur, kind of dealing with his no longer being part of the Justice League. So he's finally the king of Atlantis, but now he kind of doesn't know what to do with himself.
Yeah.
Especially
with Arian coming back.
Arian's back. Mira's basically the head of everything, because when he was going over her title, she sounded like Daenerys.
She had so many.
Allow me to introduce my cabinet. Mera Nereus, Princess of Zebel, Queen of Atlantis, Headmistress of the Conservatory of Sorcery, and Minister of Magic.
And then you have
Calderon of Sheris, Aquaman of the Justice League, and Minister of Justice.
So there's really not a place for Arthur. We're seeing that, and we're seeing all of this unrest in Atlantis as well, which I think is a good point to Young Justice, showing the unstableness of these economies. Like Atlantis, they started off the season with the instability on Mars, and now you have the instability in Atlantis. And while all this is going on, you have instability on Earth because these gods of chaos and gods of order are kind of running around, which I feel like we are definitely not done with that storyline either.
Oh, for sure.
Because I don't know if you plan to talk about it, but one of the main kind of things going on with this arc is the search for Arian's crown.
Yeah, that was a point I had here. So like you're saying, there's a lot happening in Atlantis, specifically Poseidonus, which I guess is like the capital, where King Arthur is and stuff like that. But like he was saying, it's Young Justice always does a good job of talking about the inequality of any marginalized group, specifically with Atlantis, how Poseidonus is very wealthy and very prominent, I guess, and these other city states of Atlantis are falling apart.
I see many of the same problems in Sheris that I saw in my native San Diego. The wealth that begets opportunity, seen on easy display in Poseidonus, is largely absent from the other cities.
Aye, that we can agree on.
Also, shout out to King Shark showing up, representing his area. But yeah, like all the they have their annual conference. All the ambassadors are there from different parts. One part of Atlantis, I think it's called Zebel, doesn't show up. They don't have a representative, which is where Mera is from. Honestly, when they were running through Mera's titles and running through these episodes, I thought it was going to get to a point where Arthur realizes that Mera should just be the queen of Atlantis and he's going to go do whatever, I mean,
it's possible.
It is possible. So
we also got a look at Aquaboy.
Yeah, we did get Aquaboy. Shout out to Artur. Maybe we'll see if he ends up getting kidnapped, as he always does, or not.
As he always does.
Yeah, but I know some people may not be a fan of like politics type of stuff in this kind of thing, but I think it's the way Atlantis works and operates. I think it's very, very fascinating, especially with the way that there's a line where Arthur says, like, people didn't think I was committed enough to ruling Atlantis when I was part of the Justice League, and now that I resigned from the Justice League, people are not happy with what I'm doing. And so he's going through that inner conflict of like we've been saying, where is my place in all this? Like, do I have a place? Have I fulfilled? And honestly, now that I think about it, I think what he might realize is that his place is going to be as a father and raising his son. I think that'll be the best thing for him. He needs to keep a close eye on his son because
True. I mean, and it's possible, but like I do like that Young Justice kind of takes this look at not just the characters themselves, but of the world that they're in.
Yeah.
And it makes the characters' impact that much more intense in my eyes, at least.
Yeah.
Because like you have all of these economic battles, these political battles going on, and you're seeing how these characters are responding to it. And I think you described it well when you said he's kind of lost, and that is echoed throughout so many characters this season. I mean, you see it with Beast Boy. Clearly, he's lost. And we'll
Artemis.
talk more on that in a second. But we have characters that we don't really think about. Artemis is lost as well. Then we have Halo, who we didn't get a lot to see of like this season, really. But
I do have a note. We'll go over Halo stuff too. I think it's very interesting what they're doing with Halo.
Yeah, but she's another character. They are another character that's lost. And you're it's not a main plot point, but you are kind of seeing them go through the same struggles as Beast Boy and Arthur. They're all lost for different reasons, but they're all finding, ways back to themselves or will find ways back to themselves, I'm assuming, as the season goes on, through different methods, either through politics, religion, or whatever that may be. And I think that's good, even because it shows that, a lot of the viewers we all have different opinions. We all have different ways of viewing the world, and we may be going through the same struggles, but we'll get to the answer differently. And I think it's good to show that from different aspects.
And I think not only just Young Justice, but I think this is a conversation about comic books as a whole. I think comic books have always done a good job of opening up a conversation between people who are different. Comic books are for everybody. No matter where you come from, who you are, you're going to find something for you. And I think comic books have always been a way to connect people who come from different backgrounds and to have a conversation about if you have different religions or different like upbringings or different wealth or whatever it is, you have a way to connect through comic books, because like in these episodes, it shows that people that come from different backgrounds, they are going through the same things as other. Of course, people have different ways to go about it, but everyone's going through those kind of things, and you can open up these conversations about, like for example, Calder's stepdad, who came from San Diego. He had a troubled past. I think he mentions it at one point. He's like, I didn't want to be the, absent father kind of thing. And he, got right so he can be there for Calder with his mom as well. And so, and another, like other topics which I actually have here noted of like quick shout outs that these episodes are doing. But before we go to those, so the two other like main plot points for these episodes is Arian coming back and Ocean Master. Like we said, Ocean Master got his head chopped off in the last season. So I didn't think about it while it was happening. I was like, oh yeah. So it's revealed that Ocean Master is a clone. And Arthur kind of deduces this because he goes to see him in the prison, and he's like, Ocean Master says something about Arthur coming to visit him while he was there, and then Arthur was like, I never went to go visit him, so he found out he's a clone. And then Arian comes back, and Arian was the founder of Atlantis, and he was the ruler of Atlantis while it fell into the ocean. And he's also Vandal Savage in this, universe. He's Vandal Savage's son, the first founder of Atlantis. So when he came back, like Arthur was kind of skeptical about him, and Mera was more like, oh, he's a founder of Atlantis, he's cool, whatever. But then by the end of the third episode, it comes to find out that like he was there for like a month, and like the Atlanteans wanted to be like, hey, he's our true king, he's our true ruler, we want, prophecy fulfilled. And then he escapes with I forgot the girl's name, whoever was his aide or his assistant, whatever. So who knows if like Arians has some plan with Vandal that he's doing, or if he has his own plan. But I think that's that's definitely something that's going to carry on through the rest of the season with Arian. And Ocean Master, I think he's just going to be locked up. I don't think he'll kind of. I think Arthur will maybe kind of do more background into who cloned him and what happened and stuff. But I think Arian's going to be the big piece coming out of this Calder's arc happening.
I believe there's more to the story. Definitely, I don't know if I don't know if it's. They're alluding to a lot of different things, a lot of different possibilities. My current theory is that Arian is also a clone. I could be remembering incorrectly, but I feel
he's
like
immortal, right?
Well, that's the thing. We don't really know.
That's
It doesn't
true.
really say.
Yeah, because not
What
all
we
of Vandal's kids are immortal. That's true.
What we do know is that Arian went missing when the old Atlantis fell,
Yeah.
and so he is expected to be dead. They think he's dead, so he may very well be dead, and
He's another clone.
he may be another clone because they did kind of say this during the episodes as well, that the timing was kind of suspicious. Now that could just be Aquaman saying this because he doesn't want to give up his crown, because that's all he has currently.
Aquaman is very, or the original Aquaman is very, throughout all 3 episodes, he's very skeptical about everything.
So it's possible his words don't have a lot of weight to them, but there may be something to it, because you never know. It's a comic book show.
Yeah,
timing is everything.
Yeah,
so he could very well be a clone, but of course, before they could kind of question him about these things, he went MIA, which leaves the question up in the air. Of course, we'll get some resolution down the road, but I think right now we do have a lot of theories out there as to what's going on with Arian. So
I'm very, very fascinated by this story, and specifically with Arthur. I think with Calder as well, of like what breaking point is he going to get to. I do think, because like it ends with Calder taking like a covert team of, I brought it down here, him, his boyfriend Wind, Lagan, and Dolphin. Well, Dolphin kind of like sneaks her way in to go find Arian's crown, which is in Zebel. And Zebel's already kind of on edge about, like, they were already on edge because they didn't want to be part of Atlantis overall. But then once they find out the prophecy's fulfilled, they're kind of more on edge. So I think that's going to really, like, I think Calder and Arthur are going to be two pillars, but they're going to go in 2 different directions at this. I think my theory is Calder is going to end up becoming more King of Atlantis kind of things. Or not King of Atlantis, but more like Atlantis related. And I think Arthur might retire in some type of way, become a father, or accepting that, maybe Mira should be in charge or something, kind of taking more of a background kind of role. I think Arthur, he's already kind of been on that path, especially even the Justice League, and letting Calder become Aquaman and that kind of thing. So I think I'm very, very fascinated by what's going to happen with these 2 characters specifically.
Yeah, I am. I'm definitely excited to see how this arc plays out. I believe that Calder is going to take a more prominent role in Atlantis as well. So I do agree with you there. I think how we get there may be a little loopy. So my current theory, because like I said, he's on the search for the crown. And we know from Zatanna's arc and the backstory that Vandal Savage gave, that Arian's crown is an artifact of order, like Nabu's helmet. So I think we'll definitely be seeing more Zatanna and Dr. Fate as this as Arian's crown.
I hope we get more Zatanna, because she was not a star in her own arc.
I think it's definitely coming to a culmination, especially since we had that visionary flashback to her arc, courtesy of Child's like plume of death. So I feel like we saw the plume of death. We're going to we have this plot thread for this artifact of order. So there's not a way that we're not going to see Dr. Fate and Zatanna come 100%. Back. But I feel like they're going to find Arian's crown somehow or another. It's going to be bestowed
'Cause
upon Calder,
it ended
and
with
he's
them
going to
like
become.
locked in there, right? In the cave? Or am I
Yeah,
misremembering?
they got caved in. We
Yeah.
don't know their fate as of yet. So I believe that he's going to find the crown.
Mm.
He's going to, become this like Atlantean god, and he's going to become the true king of Atlantis.
Yeah.
And like you said, Arthur's kind of going to take a back seat, either go back to the Justice League because he's tired of his day
Oh,
job,
that'd be true. Yeah.
or he's gonna be a father to his toddler we saw running
Yeah.
around.
And that kind of goes into like the last couple points of this main plot. Like some quick shout outs to some cool things that Young Justice is doing. So one of the reasons why I think it's not the main reason, but I think another part of this is Wind has multiple conversations. His name's Wind, right? Or Wind.
Yeah, it is Wind.
Wind has multiple conversations.
WYNNDE.
Yeah, with Calder about like, obviously when you're dating someone, when you're with someone, you can see when they're carrying too much, and he's telling him, and I think they live together or some kind of domestic partnership. I think Wind lives at Calder's home in Atlantis, where Calder splits his time between the surface world.
I believe so.
But they're having conversations about like, he's like, I'm always going to support you, but he's like, you're carrying too much. You need to figure out what it is. And so I think that's going to play into Calder wanting to become more prominent with Atlantis, and him realizing that with the, like with Superboy, what he thinks right now is dead. And with Wally gone and multiple people, like he's going to realize that, and especially his parents down in Atlantis, of like, he wants to become more with his people and more part of that. And maybe Arthur does go back to the Justice League, so Calder feels like, okay, I can leave the Justice League fully and kind of become Atlantis thing. So shout out to them, having like a prominent LGBT relationship, and also shout out to them doing or not prominent, but like acknowledging a polyamory relationship.
True.
My
boy Lagan.
Yeah, Lagan.
Move! My wife and husband are there! Is the baby?
We will all be fine if Ocean Master is stopped.
Because it starts off with Lagan with this girl, and she's pregnant. It's like, some Atlantean. I think she's part of the council in some way. She's the political thing.
She is.
Yeah, she's at the table. And so like Lagan and that girl, I forgot her name. They have a conversation outside the like the meeting place, and she's like, "Oh, you're going to be a great father, this and that." And then cut to later when they get attacked by Ocean Master, and she was like, "Oh, my husband." And I was like, "Wait," "Wasn't she with Lagan?" And like I got confused for a second. And then I was like, "Oh, they're all three of them together." Because Lagan was like, "Oh, my wife and husband are in there."
Yeah.
And so shout out to them doing that. I like Young Justice has always done a good job of showing people from different backgrounds and different types of relationships and friendships and everything. I know, which we'll go into. Actually, we can jump into our next point with Halo. There's a couple of B plots going on with Superboy, with Halo, and Garfield. Jumping onto Halo, Young Justice has always done a good job of showing people from different backgrounds and different beliefs. And I know the internet was kind of upset with Young Justice, I believe, last season because of how they were handling Halo. And at the time, Halo just being the mother box and not realizing like if they were Gabrielle or if they were Halo. And with the B plot, with these 3 episodes, Halo goes to see Gabrielle's family. They got visas to stay near Happy Harbor. So it's Gabrielle's mom, and I think it's her brother or her cousin. Halo waits till the cousin or the brother waits till he leaves and goes to see Gabrielle's mom. And it starts off with Halo being like, I want to learn about Islam, because they kind of hinted at this last season about Halo, aka the mother box, feels comfortable having the hijab on, but they wanted to learn more about Islam. So they have a conversation about that. Aside from this conversation, like there's not a lot happening with Halo. It's just it'll cut every once in a while. It'll cut back to Halo having this conversation with Gabrielle's mom. So I'm not gonna act like I know anything about like an expert on Islam and kind of their practices and stuff. But as someone from the outside looking in, I thought they were at least attempting to rectify some of the issues people had last season about this Muslim character, but not really being a Muslim, as the internet was saying. So yeah, I think it was kind of a good start.
Also on the outside looking in here. But I do think they took what criticisms people had with how Halo was portrayed in season 3, and they are trying to make good on it. Because I believe part of the uproar was her wearing a hijab, and when Halo was asked why she wears the hijab, they just said, I
Feel
like it
comfortable. Yeah.
because I like it. And people were like, that's okay. That's not great representation.
Yeah.
So I like that, even though it's not like the main plot, we are kind of going back and we are seeing her kind of get more information on Gabrielle's life and what it meant to Gabrielle, and if it's something that fits for them. And they're not just exploring, their religion; they're also exploring their identity,
Yeah.
as a whole. So I really like that they're kind of taking the time to really let this character explore who they are, because giving half-assed answers in season 3
Yeah.
definitely landed them in a lot of hot water, because they were trying to do this inclusion, but it felt very lackluster.
Just
it felt
like just to
very
have it just
half-assed.
exist. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like, here's your representation. We're going to move on. So I'm glad that they are delving in deeper, and I'm glad that they are choosing to do this, because it really goes back to show how Young Justice kind of does not shy away from these hot button issues. They have
Which they shouldn't
Halo
be. They shouldn't be hot button issues, by the way. But the world the way it is, it's unfortunate truth.
Yeah, they have Halo, looking into Gabrielle's background, but they also showed, Dr. Fate's, or Zatara's, Christianity
It's Christianity.
earlier in the season. So they're taking these introspective, these looks at different aspects of different religions. They're taking looks at different aspects of different communities as well. Back to the racist Martians, and
Which I don't think we're
this
done with, by
season
the way. The Martians.
who knows? But we had the racist Martians. We have Atlantis. Economical warfare going on.
The distribution of wealth for Atlantis.
So we have these major issues, these major looks at religion and things of that nature, and it's really great to see, even if it's not always handled the best way.
It's an attempt.
It's good to see them going back and listening to that feedback and actually giving this character a solid reason to exist.
Yeah, and I think like what you were saying with season 3. Like they were on a break for 10 years, 8 years. And so I think with season 3, they wanted to do so much and they got a little bit too ambitious. Like it started focusing on a bunch of other characters that like there was so many characters introduced, so many storylines happening. So like you're saying, I think they listened to that feedback and kind of, which is why season 4, it's like, all right, we're going to focus on one of the OG characters for 3 or 4 episodes. This is their arc. Artemis and Superboy McGann and Zatanna and now Calder. I'm very excited for Dick's arc, by the way, whenever that's going to happen. That'll be fun. But yeah, like they're, again, as someone on the outside looking in, I think they're doing a good job of at least starting the conversation with Halo and Violet of being like, what is Islam? What does it mean to Halo? What did it mean to Gabrielle? What does it mean to Gabrielle's family? Because I think, and this goes back to what we were saying earlier, I think comic books, and especially comic book adaptations now moving forward, I think it's a good thing to at least include characters and people who are from different backgrounds, because what that does is, like, let's say it's a kid watching the show or someone young, impressionable, it becomes normal to them to see people who are different, as opposed to 50, 60 years ago where all you saw was cis white dudes,
Exactly.
So I think it helps as older people would say, it helps the youth, become more accepting and more open to people who don't look like them, and also for people who aren't normally represented, it's a good thing because they see, hey, this person looks like me. I never see this anywhere. This is good. It makes them happy, and it makes them, maybe it inspires them to create something or to do something, So
Exactly.
on the other side of that, so Halo goes to Gabrielle's family and learns about Islam and what it means to the family and what it meant to Gabrielle. On the other side of that, another thing they hinted at last season is Violet's gender identity. I think there was a quick conversation in 1 or 2 episodes last season where I distinctly remember they were in the cave, I think, if not in the cave at the Watchtower. And Halo said something about, like, it was a brief line, said something about, like, I don't know if I identify as a woman or something along those, or they mentioned something about binary. It was last season.
Yeah, they were getting a head count of all the girls in the tower. Yeah. They counted Halo, and Halo was like, I don't know if I identify as a girl, and that was the last thing we ever heard about it.
So at the end of episode 1, these 3 episodes, they have their post credits conversations. Halo's having a conversation with Harper Row, aka Bluebird.
So, how'd it go with Maria?
It went well, but the search for any answer reminds me of how many more questions I have.
Like what?
I have been considering my gender, and I believe it's time I decide upon my preferred pronouns.
Okay, cool. What are you thinking?
I'm not sure. I am not troubled by she and her, yet perhaps they and them are a better fit for me?
Oh, the whole point is for you to decide what fits you best.
Aside from the fact that I am the sum of both Gabrielle and Motherbox, I feel my true gender is non-binary, neither just female nor just male. So, I believe I prefer they.
That's great. World, allow me to introduce you to Violet Harper. They are the best person I know.
Hello, world. Nice to meet you.
And so, again, as someone who is on the outside looking in for this kind of thing, what I got from that conversation is Halo is okay with she, they, but they prefer they, them. But I could have misinterpreted that incorrectly. But at the end of that conversation, Halo says, I feel like I'm non-binary. Which...
Yeah. And I think that's an accurate interpretation.
Yeah.
So she, they is not necessarily wrong, but they, them is, again, their preferred pronouns. And again, I think that, they definitely dropped the ball last season as well. Because like I said, that throwaway line was...
It was like, let's put it in here to put it in here and not really
all we heard about it. Yeah. And it went on. So again, I am glad that they are taking the time to give the character the spotlight they need. Some may say it's a season too late because Halo definitely had a prominent role.
100%. It was like Halo season last season. Yeah,
it was Halo season 3. So like some people, and they would be warranted in saying, it's a little too late. But I am glad that they are at least taking the time to give the character the space that they need to not only find out who they are religiously, but to find out who they are and who they identify as. Because, especially in this day and age, we're all kind of trying to find our identity in the world.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a real powerful moment. And it wasn't, it didn't pull away from the episode.
Yeah.
They gave it its own segment. And they let it be what it is. So I definitely appreciated that kind of approach. Like I said, I wish it would have happened
last season.
Because
there were plenty of times when Halo and Harper were hanging out and they could have had that conversation. Which, again, granted, like, I know it can go into a larger conversation, which, again, from the outside looking in, I haven't been a part of, but I would assume that people who go through that kind of thing, that it's ever changing and you never know when it's going to happen. And like I was just saying, that Halo said that they were comfortable with she, her, but they prefer they, them. And so, like, that may change for them later on where they only want to be referred to as they, them and stuff. So
exactly,
I think it's a good thing to have because, again, there are young people in this country, in this world, who are going through similar things. And if they watch this show, they're like, hey, you know what? There are other people like this. And I know, at least in show continuity, I think it's a good thing for Halo to have Harper there to kind of support them, because I can only imagine if it was just Halo on their own going through this whole thing. So I think it's good.
Yeah.
I think
it's definitely good that they showed Halo having a supportive
support system.
friend,
Yeah.
and also having support through Gabrielle's mom when it came to learning about religion. So I think it's good that they're showing not only are they going through this journey, but they're not going through this journey alone.
I do think, like you were saying, I think Young Justice had a disadvantage for having such a huge gap between season 2 and 3, but also a pretty big gap between season 3 and 4. Obviously, with the pandemic and stuff, delayed stuff. True. But season 3 came out 3 years ago at this point, something like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And now with a huge gap in season 4, like there's so many gaps, like in real world time, that happened that it kind of. This conversation should have definitely happened last season, at least at the end of last season. But there was already so much happening with Brion and Halo and a lot going on.
True.
And, but another character who was going through some changes last season, but especially this season, Superboy. My man Superboy is fighting for his fucking life in the Phantom Zone, dude. He's
True.
He is going through it. In terms of Superboy, there's not a lot that happens, like plot. He's in the Phantom Zone with.
Well, I think a lot happens plot wise.
Well, I mean, in the sense of like, how do I say it? Not plot, but I guess actions and stuff. Like he's kind of running in a circle, basically in the Phantom Zone. But yeah, plot. There is a lot that happens. He's in the Phantom Zone because of that blast that happened back in the Martian arc. He's there with, I think her name is Phantom Girl. Is that right?
Yeah, Phantom Girl. Phantom Girl in the Phantom Zone, yes.
But she's KO'd the whole time, so he's basically having a conversation.
All 3 episodes. She's
asleep.
Just limp.
The Superboy's there. He's having a conversation with himself.
We finally get a look at the Legion of Superheroes, and she's asleep for those.
Yeah, she's asleep for the whole fucking thing.
3 episodes.
He's there. The conversation he's having with himself is he doesn't know if he's alive or dead. 2, he has a moment where he recognizes that he needs to still control his rage, which I thought we were kind of past, but it's still here.
He going through it.
But there were some parts that stood out to me in this, and they might have stood out to you. So he has some visions of some people close in his life. He has a vision of McGann. He has a vision of Superman. He has a vision of the Project Match other clone, the one that was like perfect Superman match. And he has a vision of Wally. However, there's a big difference with Wally. So with McGann, Superman, and Project Match, I don't know if it has an actual name. Bizarro Superboy, basically. They all look like their real world forms. Like their full body, full color, everything. But Wally looks exactly like Superboy in this episode in terms of existing in the Phantom Zone.
Exactly.
So I thought that was very interesting.
I thought that was very interesting as well, especially after we got that quick glimpse of Impulse in the later episode as well. So yeah, the Legion went to go visit Impulse. So I feel like we're going to have some big reveals coming soon.
Yeah. People want Wally back.
If they pan out, I'm really freaking excited for it. I am one of the people who wants Wally back. I feel like he was an integral part to the show. But also, it's never really stated, that he's dead. Of course they mourn. They think he's dead.
I've always thought he was just in the Speed Force this whole time.
But that's the thing, though. So the Speed Force is not technically canon in this universe.
Yeah, it doesn't really exist.
It's not. So, but we know that, he's gone.
Yeah.
So if he's not dead, in the Speed Force doesn't exist,
he's in the Phantom Zone.
Where did he go? So it is very interesting to see him pop up in the Phantom Zone, especially since, we know somehow Superboy is going to come back.
Yeah.
But now this opens the door. So
for Wally.
Is Wally really there? Is he going to come back with Superboy? Because I feel like if they have the whole shot, they do whatever they got to do to bring Superboy back. The fog is clearing. And they're like, oh my God, Superboy's back. And then they just hear Wally.
Knocked out.
Phantom Girl's still knocked out. And then they just hear Wally's voice off camera.
Yeah.
I feel like the impact of that scene will be talked about for years.
Yeah.
If it happens that way. He could have still just been a hallucination. We don't know anything. We don't know anything
It
yet.
is interesting that Wally looked like him and it didn't look like real world Wally.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't know. It could pan out that way because of how he is drawn in that scene.
Mm-hmm.
He is drawn like Superboy. He is drawn like Phantom Girl. And they are drawn very specifically to that Phantom Zone universe.
Yeah.
Whereas the other hallucinations, they're full body. They look how they look, outside of the Phantom Zone.
Yeah.
So it is possible that he's in the Phantom Zone. I am clinging to the tiniest hope that he is. I am a big believer in that nothing is done.
Yeah, especially in comics. Like,
in comic books. And everybody who dies manages to come back somehow. So, I feel like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But, he could have just looked that way because he's the only one that, was hallucinated and was dead.
He's he's the only one who's not dead, or he's the only one who's dead.
Yeah, so there's, they could play it off, be a red herring. It's just he looks that way because he's dead. But I hope, I swear to God, I hope that's not what happens because I will punch a hole in the wall.
The only thing I will say, I'm a big Wally fan. I want him to come back too.
I am too.
The other side of me is like, well, they did a lot of work with Artemis last season for her to accept that he's gone.
But that could just mean more plot threads to pull on when Wally comes back. Because also he's in the Phantom Zone. You don't age in the Phantom Zone. We know at least 5 years have passed since he died. Mm-hmm. So he's going to come back 5 years in the past. She's finally moved on.
Actually, is it 5 years now? Because it was the end of season 2. And the jump from season 2 to 3 was 2 years, right?
I believe it's been 5 years since his death.
It might be 3 years. I have to look into it.
Yeah, I'll look into it as well. But
it's been
I believe
a few years, either way.
I believe it is 5.
It's been a while.
So it's we're gonna have this weird dynamic if he does come back because of course he's coming back to a life that isn't there anymore. So I feel like that'd be really interesting to play with.
Just feels like Superboy's fighting for his fucking life in there, dude.
He really is, and he has no help. God bless.
While carrying this girl who's just KO.
And but we're also getting another look at Superboy's powers that aren't really talked about as well because in the Phantom Zone you can't really touch anybody else, but if he very clearly is able to. So I think we're getting a look at his tactile telekinesis, which they don't really talk about a whole lot. Which is a small kind of Easter egg, but I like there. I like it.
So the other side of that, with Phantom Girl being KO'd, the Legion, we talked about it in length at the first half of the season, where we were like, "What's the Legion doing? What's going on here?" So apparently they were there, of course, to stop Superboy's death. Phantom Girl went in there to try to save him, and she got knocked out with him. So Saturn Girl and what's the boy's name? I forgot his name. The Beast Boy from the future, basically.
I think it's Changeling.
Changeling.
100%.
They go and visit Superman. Which I thought was a funny conversation, which is
I chuckled.
It's like, these kind of conversations are why I love Superman. And recently, if you've been on the internet, there was a lot of discourse about Superman being a boring character. If you feel like Superman is a boring character, then you just haven't seen any good Superman stuff. For example, this conversation he has with the Legion.
Superman, we need to talk.
I think you're a little confused. My friend Clark said you wanted to see me?
Okay.
And her response was just like,
she was
okay,
like,
thanks.
Okay, anyway.
I freaking died.
It was so good. I love Superman, dude. But they go to him and they're like, hey, we came here. We're from the future. We came to stop Superboy's death. We also lost our friend during this whole thing. She's like, we need you to be here in 10 years. Can you remember that? He's like, I guess I'll try to remember.
Yeah.
And then Superman gets a call from the fire plumes from Black Lightning. Shout out to Black Lightning still leading the Justice League. He's like, hey, we need you to go to, I think, the Taj Mahal, which is a scene from the first half of the season, like an after credits where it's Superman and I think Jeff is there too, Black Lightning.
Jeff, I think we have to start thinking about organizing a true Justice League Reserves system.
So Superman gets that call in this episode that, hey, we need to fly out of here. He flies away, and the Legion is like, well, they should have changed it. We're still here. Obviously, he fucked up. So they're kind of stuck in the present.
Yes. Yeah, they're stuck. Their time ship has been destroyed. They're one man down. They think they have failed their mission. So they are grasping at straws, trying to figure out how they can rectify it. But they don't know if they rectified it or not because nothing has changed for their present. And they can't go back to the future, so they don't know what it looks like. And I think I'm so excited that not only are the plot threads from the earlier parts of the season starting to weave in. I'm happy that we're finally getting answers on why these people are friggin' here.
Because they were just hanging out for a couple episodes,
just friggin' tiptoeing in the background, eating donuts, doing absolutely nothing. So we finally find out that they're there for the mission to save Superboy. And we find out they were successful in saving Superboy at an earlier part in the series. And then, of course, as of right now, they believe that they failed. Of course, they're going to figure out that they didn't once Phantom Girl and Superboy figure out how they're getting home.
What if Phantom Girl just KO the rest of the season?
She could be. It could be an ongoing joke. And honestly, that's all she's been doing for the first part of the season anyway. So, I mean, what has changed?
So that's another B plot happening. Superboy's fighting for his life in the Phantom Zone. Superman didn't show up in Happy Harper in 10 years, and the Legion is stuck. And the last B plot kind of happening, we mentioned this earlier, is Beast Boy. Now, I'm going to say this at the start. As someone who has, and I'm being transparent here, as someone from the outside looking in who has not gone through that kind of depression and PTSD and stuff like that, I feel like in terms of the show's timeline, I feel like they stretched it out kind of a bit. Granted, there was such a big break between the first half and second half, but we mentioned this in the first half of the season of how it seemed like they were kind of just letting it sit around. I guess they were maybe from the artist's perspective, they wanted to really let it settle in what he's going through. When they had an intervention, I feel like it was such a dramatic shift in Beast Boy's approach to life, which again could be part of the message you're trying to send of how much he's going through it. But the way he was blowing off everybody who was there, so it was Cassie, Wonder Girl, Blue Beetle, Static, Robot Man, Shout Out, and then Magan was there. And he was really not having it in that intervention.
He wasn't. And I will say, Beast Boy is definitely a character that has irritated me this season. Now, being transparent as well, I have, dealing with depression. It has not gotten to this extent. I would be a fool to say I have not burned some bridges.
Like I said, and I know that happens,
But I think they are doing a good look at what depression could look like if it goes unchecked. Because yes, people do go through this. Of course, the reason for the depression or the PTSD, it's not going to be superheroes, but
of course,
But real life things happens. Life be lifing sometimes.
True.
And so you do kind of get into this isolation state. You get to this place where people are trying to help you, and you don't necessarily think that you need help. And you clearly see that in Beast Boy, where he's coming back. Every time somebody's trying to reach out to him, he's giving them examples of why he doesn't need help. And Megan especially, combats that and says, "Look, boy, I was there with you. I know how you got through those, and I can see that you're clearly not getting through this."
Megan hasn't been checking on him. Forager has a conversation where he's like, Beast Boy broke up with Perdita. Beast Boy left the Outsiders. So
I what I was about to say, I felt that the way that they portrayed Megan kind of finding that out, that Beast Boy has been dealing with all this, was phenomenal. That whole scene really kind of resonated with me, because yes, Megan definitely has been dealing with her own stuff this season. And so she always she's been trying to get her life in order. And in the back of her mind, of course she loves Beast Boy. They're siblings in this universe. So like, but in the back of her mind, she has seen Beast Boy get through all of these other traumatizing experiences with a smile on his face. That's just who he is to her. So she didn't even really think to check in on him because he has all of these people around him, or had. He had his TV show, he had the Outsiders, and he had his girlfriend. So she thinks he's good while she's like slowly piecing her life back together after Superboy dies. And then when he comes up to her and he tells her like, "Yo, have you checked on your boy lately?"
Yeah, she's like, he doesn't do
"No,
anything."
she's good." He's like, "No, have you checked on your boy lately?" And she's like, "Huh?" Like, I thought that scene was so good. And it really just, it's one of those scenes that really makes me love Young Justice even more, because while Beast Boy has definitely been an irritating character, it is kind of realistic.
I was going to say, I think I have to remind myself, like, I think this is what the creator's intention is. To let this, like, his depression sit and stew and get irritated about it and stuff like that.
Exactly. And so now we're going to see we've been seeing the fallout of it slowly, which I think is another good look at, depression as, when you get into that state, when you get into that funk, things don't fall apart all at once. You kind of just slowly let your life unravel. And
he was taking pills and stuff too, right? At the first half of the season.
We saw him self-medicate. We saw him let go of his acting gig, break up with his girlfriend, just not leave the house. And so you see him like slowly just letting his life unravel around him. And now he's left with the ultimate choice to either seek help or permanently, I believe she said, leave the Justice League and the Outsiders and the team.
Yeah, she said Black Lightning has it mandated that at least once a year you have a mandatory like mental health check with Black Canary. And she's like, "You're due." She's like, "If you don't go to this, you're permanently out of the team, the league, everything." And
so
it cuts off like right there.
So I feel like we're about to see the climax of that arc and what decision Beast Boy is going to make. And I feel like Superboy's arc is going to definitely have something to deal with his answer.
Superboy coming back.
Whether if it's just Superboy coming back, I feel like if Superboy and Wally both come back, that's definitely going to be like a kick. That Beast Boy hasn't, because it all kind of started with Wally. Wally was the first
death.
First death,
and then Superboy, and then Jason at one point died.
Exactly.
which we haven't even talked about yet, but that'll come in Dick's arc.
And then he also had which Robot Man brought up during the intervention.
Also, shout out to Robot Man.
The Doom Patrol died as well, and of course his mother,
his mom died.
Beast Boy's mother died as well.
I guess his mom died would be the first kind of thing.
Yeah, so he's been dealing with death his whole life, traumatizing event after traumatizing event, and everyone is just used to him putting on a smile, getting through it. You're just moving on with his life, but now this is the first time everyone kind of sees him, stop trying, stop trying to do anything. And he even says that at one point in the episode where he said he's tired. And so like, I think it's a good look.
He's what in university, I think he's 16 at this point, 16, 17?
Around there. Yeah. He's still very young.
I guess this kind of parallels Calder too, of like Calder and Beast Boy have always kind of just gone through all the shit they've gone through, and then, but obviously Beast Boy has passed his breaking point before Calder has, because obviously Calder's a little bit older.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think, like I was saying, like at the beginning, when I was first watching these episodes at the beginning, I was like, oh, they're kind of not dragging out, but they're kind of stretching out this like Beast Boy thing. And then I would remind myself in the moment, like, oh, well, you know what? I think this might be the intention to be like, this is what happens, like you were saying, when you get this depressed, when you have this kind of PTSD, when you shoulder this kind of weight for so long and you reach your breaking point, that if you want this to, it feels like it happens, or it's going on forever because of how it feels and everything. So like Megan gave him an ultimatum. Like, if you're going to permanently leave everything, you don't have to go to this thing, but you need to go if you're still part of this. So
exactly. Yeah. So I think we're in for a good arc, a good conclusion to this season.
This back half of the season is going to be really good for sure. I'm very excited for Dick's arc because there's a lot with Dick that like honestly involves all these arcs already. Because obviously Dick, was the original member of the team and the leader as time has gone on. But quick shout out, like I said, to Robot Man. Also, quick shout out to Aqualad or Calder's voice actor whose voices 37 characters in the show, including Robot Man. Every time there's a new character, it's the same dude. But yeah, I think it was good they included Robot Man. It kind of obviously references Beast Boy's original origins from the comics with the Doom Patrol and stuff. And
exactly,
it's just nice seeing more Doom Patrol representation. I love the Doom Patrol, and
yeah, but I think the end of this season is going to be really great. I feel like, because like you said, Dick's already inside most of these plot threads. So I feel like
whose arcs are left?
His and not Icon. Rocket.
So they might do Rocket next, and then maybe Dick will be the end of the season.
I believe that they are going to do Rockets next. I don't think it's been confirmed, but I believe they're going to do Rockets next because I know she has an arc with the New Gods, which we kind of got a glimpse. We got a glimpse of in the Martian arc, dealing with
Orion.
Orion and Darkseid.
Yeah, because Megan's brother acting like he was Orion.
Yeah. So, but we also did get a glimpse of Orion in the trailer, with and without his helmet.
True.
So, I can't wait to see him without his helmet. I think
I wonder if they'll do
without that goofy looking helmet.
I wonder if they'll do a Red Arrow arc since he's technically an original member.
Possible. I don't know. We have a lot of the season left to go. I'm really looking forward to it.
26?
I believe 26. I could be wrong though.
I think this is
like I said, this arc is about all of the arcs at least have 4 episodes. So far that we know of.
Yeah, I think the second half of the season will be much better than the first half. I think so far. I think overall the season is, in my opinion, better than season 3.
Oh yeah,
I like season 3. I know a lot of people had issues with season 3. But I mean, we mentioned this in the first episode of this YouTube show that anything that's DC, I'm gonna like by default, anyways. But I know there's a lot of people that are like, not only Young Justice purists from the comics of like the Young Justice comics team, which is not this team, but also Young Justice purists from season 1. There's a lot of people that like to hate on it for I don't know why, just to hate on it. But I enjoy the show. I love the show, and I think I enjoy what they do.
Yeah.
Anytime, even if they change things from the comics, hey, you know what? If it fits with the story, it fits with the story. So I enjoy it, and yeah, I'm very very excited for Dick's arc. I've mentioned this before. I'm a Dick stan. We love Dick, and
yes, we love Dick.
The things they could touch on obviously was Jason, which was teased last season. Obviously, I think in continuity for this show, I think Dick and Bruce's relationship has already been mended like a long time ago. I think that story happened, somewhere in between. So
it's possible.
I don't think they need to address his relationship with Bruce anymore. But Dick with Jason, Dick with the rest of the team. But Dick's kind of grief with him losing Wally. Like he still really hasn't processed that,
Yeah, and so that's another reason I think we're going to see more Wally in this season, especially since like Impulse hasn't really been around, and for them to do that quick shot of him and the Legion of Superheroes,
this is like their next attempt.
Yeah, we know that the Legion of Superheroes are going to have a major part in this because they've been in the background for so long that we're going to need some more information, and so we're finally starting to get that information. And for them to show us the Legion visiting him like briefly after they gave Superman that role and kind of explained why we've been seeing them all season. I feel like Impulse is going to have, Kid Flash as he goes by as of right now.
I wonder if he'll go back to the future.
He's going to have a bigger role. He might go back to the future as well because he's also stuck here. And then we may find out what actually happened to Wally. Even if he doesn't come back, we may actually find out what happened to him and finally get some closure on that plot thread, whether through bringing him back as a character or through finally closing the door on him. So I'm excited to see how it pans out.
I wonder if they're gonna do 3 episodes every week, or if it was just, first week back, here's 3, and then 1 episode every week from now on.
I believe it's just going to be one a week. I think I looked up the next episode, and it is just one next week.
The last point I have here, you know what I love about this show? The one consistent thing that has happened since season 1.
Who's that?
You know who is always plotting, who's always scheming on the low?
Oh boy, who's that?
Your boy Vandal Savage. It doesn't matter where he is, what time it is. This man is always scheming. So if you remember in the first half in Zatanna's arc, when all the fire plumes were happening, he had Cassandra, his daughter, like put all their resources on the war world. And then the last episode of these 3 episodes, the post credits or the during credits, whatever, he's having a conversation with Cassandra. He's like, you know what? Keep all our stuff up here. He's like, I don't know what's going on over there. So I don't know what he's scheming. I love Vandal Savage as a character.
Yeah.
One of the things I've always been fascinated by with him, specifically in this Young Justice universe, is they mentioned, I don't know if it was season 2 or season 3, where he made that agreement with Darkseid about like, we'll conquer the rest of the worlds and then we'll fight each other at the end. So one thing that's always fascinated me about Vandal Savage is he's this huge, overarching villain, but the fact that he is still committed to Earth as a world because it's his home world. So especially like when, I think it was last season, or actually it might have been this season. No, it was last season. When that Armada, Starro's Armada, it was last season because it was Vandal's origin episode.
Yeah.
When Starro's Armada was attacking Earth from 2 different sides of the galaxy, and he was like, fuck, he's like, I got to protect it because this is my home world. So I think him being an Earthling, obviously, Justice League and Young Justice, they fight aliens and shit. But him being an Earthling is very, very fascinating to me because like this is, at the end of the day, he's from Earth.
Not just an Earthling. He's like the father of Atlantis and the father of like all superpowered people.
Yeah, he's a father. He's essentially father of Earth because he was the first metahuman, and like he was part of that transition from Neanderthal to Homo sapiens and stuff. And so I love Vandal Savage, and the fact that he's always scheming just kills me every single time. Like he doesn't.
Yeah.
And shout out to like back in season 2 when they had that summit episode when he was meeting with the Beatles or the Reach, and he was like, he's like, he has a line to Calder or something about like, he's like, in 50,000 years, these kids have done to me what no one has ever done. Like it's just, it's so good, dude. But yeah, Vandal's scheming something, so who knows what he's gonna get into. I mean, obviously his son's
I definitely think we'll see more of him, because he has a lot. He has a lot to do with all of the plots that are going on right now. Even though he hasn't really been like at the forefront of everything going on, we found out in the Zatanna's arc that this all kind of goes back to him and his deal with Clarion. So I feel like we're definitely going to see that more of that, especially with the reemergence of Arian. Whether he be a clone or not, Vandal is definitely going to have something to say about his son coming back, especially if they do find Arian's crown, since it's another artifact of order. Because as of right now, the only artifact of order in play is Nabu's helmet.
Yeah, because Savage and his son, when they were telling that story, they didn't see eye to eye, right? When Vandal wanted to sink Atlantis.
Yeah, exactly. So they didn't see eye to eye, but now he's supposedly returned after being dead for centuries. And like I said, we'll have a second artifact of order in play, which I'm sure will upset the gods of chaos, which we already saw a glimpse of the gods of chaos in Zatanna's arc, with Child coming down and starting this whole apocalypse type scenario. So I believe that all of these things are going to come to a culmination, and we're going to see the gods of order and chaos come back in some type of way with Vandal Savage, and the Earth is just going to be in the middle of everything like it always is.
God, there's so much that got to happen the rest of this season.
As Vandal said, it's one crisis after another.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that was the return of Young Justice. 3 episodes. Like you said, I believe it might just be 1 episode, so these will be much shorter moving forward. But we mentioned this in our previous recording. If you haven't watched our discussion of Moon Knight. We're going to be trying to do these 2 videos each week. So while those are happening, we'll probably move our regular show like to every 2 to 3 weeks, because there's a lot of recording and editing to do. So we'll have our Moon Knight discussion. We'll have our Young Justice discussion. No specific days of the week. We'll just put them out when we put them out. But we'll try to do them weekly with each show. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys like and smash that motherfucking subscribe button, whatever the kids say. And also make sure you follow us. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Pretty active on there. We have some fun times. And I spend a lot of time on Twitter, especially when Young Justice episode comes out or a new episode of any show, just to see people's theories and discussions and stuff that I didn't think about or things I forgot about. So thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week with the next episode of Moon Knight and Young Justice. Hopefully more of Dick. If not, Rockets.
More Dick.
Rockets.
All right, guy.
Bye, guys.